Welcome to The Agenda. My name is Famujura. In today's episode, we shall be looking at one critical aspect of governance, one critical institution that determines the lives of millions of people within every nation, and in particular the nation called Nigeria. My name is Famujura, and we shall be talking about the executive. Joining me for this conversation is Femi Oyewunmi, a good governance advocate. Femi, welcome once again.
Thank you very much.
It's great to have you on this platform. Let's dive into it immediately.
All right.
The executive arm of government. How does their work and their policies affect the lives of the citizenry?
You know, people say that the start and finish of any project lies with the leadership. So when you take the executive of the arm of the government, you are talking about the entire performance of a nation, because they are the people who implement all of the policies, all of those fine documentation that we have done in terms of the direction of. These are people that sit with the power. And now, when you let's break it down a bit, because most time people just talk about the governors, talk about the president but they don't talk about the vice. They don't talk about the other guys who are actually sitting to monitor each part of government affairs. When you talk about the ministries, the government ministries, the departments.
You're referring to the MDAs.
Yes, the MDAs. And even going to the armed forces, because these people are also in charge of all of those places. You find ministers for this, ministers for that. But you will find out that most of these people that are being appointed by the so-called the president and governor at all levels, even in the local government, are loyalists to those government, to those governors. Which means that we are not going to be running a national agenda, but we may be running the agenda of the minister in charge of any of those ministries. And that in itself may impact the kind of growth and change that we actually requires.
Are you saying that the executive arm of government, not necessarily in Nigeria, but assuming, is being run based on interest above national interest?
Absolutely. In Nigeria, as a case study, we have seen that play down over time. So you've seen people who are in power, and you find out that all of the structure in terms of this is the direction we are going ends every 4 years. There is no continuity in that government. So which tells you that there is no typical plan in running our national development, but we are running individual agenda.
But you do acknowledge that in the executive arm of government, because of the delicate nature of governance, you cannot put your enemy in the place of implementing critical decisions. That is the place of interest. You cannot put someone whom you do not trust. You cannot put someone who is not loyal. How else will the executive arm of government function?
So we now need to shift away from the loyalist without competency to a loyalist with competency. I mean, I don't want to talk so much about the government of the day, but you realize that competency is not being considered over the loyalist that we're talking about. What is the interest for any executive arm of government? Is the interest of the nation. Do you know one of the things you see in the US is immediately after the election, the president will say, I'm no longer a president of this social score party. I'm now the president of the United States of America. The moment he takes that position, he has that mindset that is absolutely responsible for every member of the nation.
But Femi, I need to interrupt you. The United States of America is a reference point, but they have over Nigeria over 200 years of democracy. They've been in existence since 18-something. We do not have that historical background. So shouldn't we commend our executive and say they can do better? Because when we're not comparing apples with apples. If we compare Nigeria with Ghana, it's a different ballgame or other
we can go
countries.
there, but remember your executive actually earned more than the country you mentioned that has been in existence for more than 200 years.
In terms of remuneration.
Yeah, remuneration. They earn more than the people sitting in the executive government in the US. So if they earn more, wouldn't you demand more from them? But let's take it to our neighboring countries that have spent the same number of years in independence with us. In fact, can I really be true to you? I also think that
you should be true to me.
Yes, I
because you need to be true to our audience as well.
If you look at even the executive that we're talking about, most of them are not skilled in the area of corruption, but go back to the civil service. The people who are sitting in those ministries are the people that shows the executive where to steal. because they've been there for 20 years, 15 years, 17 years, for a man that is coming in for 4 years. So again, what is the role, what are the functions of these executives? We talk about enforcement of policies, enforcement of law and all that, but if you look at the order of the day in the case of Nigeria, they are the one who are the contractors. So if you are supposed to check if the Lagos-Ibadan road has been done to the standard of what needs to be done, according to the budget you have received money for, if you are the one running that with another name of company, will you really do justice? That's what we call self-threat, because you won't do a proper review.
So you're referring to the fact that the relationship between the civil service, ministries, departments, and agencies, and the executive arm of government, where there are no checks, promotes inefficiency, incompetence,
Absolutely.
and corruption.
Because the way the government has been structured is a segregation of duty. So the legislative man knows that he needs to bring out laws that are going to help checkmate the executives, also support the executives. The executive needs to be sure of these policies and be aware of it, so that they are the custodian and they are the advocate. They are also the one implementing what needs to be done. But I've seen our exec getting their hands involved with activity that ought not to be with them.
Isn't that a failure of the system of checks and balances, where the legislature is able to say, you cannot appoint this individual does not merit or deserve the confirmation?
But you know, in the system we run currently, in the present day government, it is more like a rubber stamp. And the moment there is no segregation of power, he said absolute power corrupt, absolutely. It's more of a negotiation. There was a time we cried out when we saw, attention and education around the budget. Before, when they said they are signing the budget, nobody really cares. Nobody sits to go and hear the public hearing and all of that. But the moment people become aware of what is really going down and started questioning it, what they are doing is a negotiation. I want this, you want that. And let's agree on it, and then we go ahead to do it. What should be the role of the exec? The exec should not be concerned with, with getting himself involved with the operational activity of a nation. What they should be to be the check and balance. For example, if you have given a contract out to someone to deliver something on public agenda, look at the insecurity today. Someone is sitting in the, the Ministry of Defense. If the minister is independent of all of the arms that needs to be purchased in procurement, whatever, into standard, they are bringing the standard guns they need to bring in and all that, you'll be able to check if there's anything going wrong there. You should be able to challenge it. But if it's part of those vendors who are bringing those things in, if they're not bringing the standard, no one is going to question him.
So, in effect, what you're saying is that the executive arm of government connects to the soul of the citizenry.
Absolutely.
And where it is not executing its assignment correctly, the nation will buckle.
Absolutely. You are going to have a lot of drawback because they are not there, they are not yet performing their primary purpose. I mean, people need to stay in their space. They need to stay in their space to ensure that they deliver what has been given to them. But what we see today is that there is a mix of activity of what not concerned, because there is a part of government that is very juicy, and that's where the governors, the executives are putting their hand.
All right. Femi Oyewunmi, we will be right back in a few minutes as we take a short commercial break. When we come back, I will ask Femi a critical question. Easier said than done. Stay tuned. Welcome back. It is still The Agenda with Abiodun Famojura. I have with me Femi Oyewunmi. Femi, you were talking about the executive arm of government, you were expressing yourself. But I want to ask you a question. There are many persons who have made claim to the fact that what we see and what goes on behind the scene, they are not the same. The executive is doing their very best. But you see, you find persons who have been critics. When they are given the opportunity, they sing a different song. What do you have to say about that? So,
and that has to do with individuals, really. Because the more we generalize issue, the more hopelessness we are going to expose. And this is the truth. When you find people, so you say, I mean, we have examples I can point to, but I'm not permitted to mention names on the show. So you find people that they are just looking for opportunity, you don't yet tell how responsible somebody is until responsibility is given to them. We need to go back to the place of the values of the people, the integrity of the people that are assuming offices. Our execs needs to be people who are independent of their personal interests and then taking up national interests.
Let's talk about that. Citizens' engagement. The citizens have access. When a contract is awarded, there is an organization called Tracker in Nigeria.
Yeah, I'm aware.
And what they've been able to do is verify projects, confirm the project that has been released, and verify and put out a public communication. That is citizen engagement. There is an organization called SERAP. SERAP has been labeled as an organization that engages government on everything that is constitutional and illegal. So they go to court and they sue them up to the ECOWAS court. Why are the citizens not engaging the executive like the civil societies are doing?
I think it's lack of education, proper education in this aspect. I always tell people that if you find the exec and you don't engage them properly, they are not going to become accountable to you. Just like what Tracker is doing. How many of Tracker do we have today in all of the states? Tracker is doing a great job, but are we amplifying what they are doing? Are we really, really engaging? When Tracker brings out that result, who followed through? So let's take it back in maybe a state. The governor has said he's going to do so. Who is marrying the manifesto with what has actually been done? To be able to appraise our governors, to say this. Do you know the citizen has the power to form a quorum, a united nation? I'm not about the United Nation, but a united youth that can gather together to say, Governor, we need you in this forum to account for this, and this that you have said you are going to do. That is how to engage our government. Do you know some people don't even know their local government chairman? They don't know them by name.
Who is to blame?
It's the citizen. It's the citizen, because there's lack of power. They are ignorant of the power they have. And until we begin to use what we have, and this has happened to me before. You know, I remember many years ago in a particular community where I was serving in my NYSC, I listened to the young man, so to say. He called himself young man. I think he was about 50 at that time, but he said he was one of the youngest of the local government chairman. Said he's going to do so. I walked into the office. After about a year, when I was rounding up, and I said, I want to see the chairman. The secretary asked me, do I have an appointment? I said, no. He said, who are you? I said, I'm one of the citizens of this particular local government. He said, she obliged me. She asked me to sit. Not long ago, the chairman walked into the office and said, oh, there is a young man who wants to see you and all that. And I greeted, politely, and I said, and all that. I said, sir, there is a particular thing you said in your manifesto that you are going to do. And you said, these are the things you are going to do in your first quarter. This is 1 year. You have not done anything. Do you know what he said to me? He said, get out of my office. As I was on my way out of the office, because I didn't say anything, as I was on my way out of the, he called me back. He asked me to sit down and started explaining some of the challenges he was going through, why he was unable to do that. Some things I can't say on the call. Naturally. That is almost unbelievable, because a man who have invested so much in election, looking for ways to recover what he has put in that election, again, that day I've sent a strong signal to that man that somebody somewhere is interested in what he said he's going to do. If he's coming back another time to say he's going to do this, I'm going to ask him, what have you done in that last? We need to engage our people. You don't even need to go to governors alone. You must engage them at every local levels when you have opportunity to meet with them.
The actions of the executive arm of government affects the totality of the life of the citizen.
Absolutely.
From the economic point, security, health, education, infrastructure. The state of a nation, the heartbeat, is from the executive arm of government. What are your recommendations? Now, you talked about the citizens' engagement, but the executive arm, like I said, for example, I'll give you an example. The National Bureau of Statistics, the former Director General, used to publish in accuracy certain data. And the data was recognized, acknowledged to be empirical, and the nation was using the data to advance its cause. Meaning that there are people within the executive arm of government that are competent and they are doing their job. However, is there a town hall meeting? Is the media also communicating to say, executive, this subject matter has become a challenge? I'll give you an example, albeit not so hilarious. Someone said it is cheaper to fly by air than to go by road. And the explanation is not lost on many people. How do we support the executive? There was a whistleblower policy that the executive brought into existence. It cannot all be condemnation. It cannot all be that the executive is not doing what they ought to do. Like you said, the local government chairman told you there are issues behind the scene that you know nothing about, which means that there is a gap in communication. There is a gap in information. There is a gap by letting us know these are the things we're suffering. Because any executive government, any executive arm of government that does not inform the people properly, what will go wrong?
Yeah, a lot will go wrong. Because you can even be doing a lot, but people are not aware of the efforts you're making. So I want to say in my recommendation to the exec, you must find a place. There's a place where you started engaging them before you get into power. What you see today is they have a particular office in their locality where a governor meets, like a town hall meeting that you said.
Yes.
But that door is closed. Immediately they assume power.
They get into
They
office.
need to keep it open. The exec needs to listen to the people. And they are one of the closest people to the citizens. They need to listen to what is the pain area. Again, you want to ask, is it that they don't know the pain area? I think they do, because they have families, they have people, they have extended families that are part of the people who are suffering also. So when they listen to them, they must take on the responsibility placed on them. Like you said, the national development depends absolutely. I'm saying this, absolutely, because when you have a fine law, you have a law that works on paper. If you don't have a good plan in implementation, you are also as bad as the law that you're trying to. Exactly. So they must stand up to those responsibilities. What has been committed to them, they must be able to follow through. They must be able to show the chart of what they are doing. In terms of communication, they must engage the people. Well, let's take some of the other nations. They are constantly engaging their people. If you go on some of these execs' Twitter handles, their Facebook, there's nothing you are going to find in there. You don't even know the project they are currently working on. They need to constantly engage. And why am I saying that on social media? Because these are where your people are. They need to know what you're doing. They need to amplify it.
There are also
and
those
there must
who are
be
not on social media.
Yes, on both ends. So I've spoken about a physical place where you can maybe a bi-monthly or a monthly affair where you publish all of these things where people can reach out to. Come back to them. Let them know what you are. Transparency is key. Accountability is key to your people. That's how people know that you know what you are doing. And then ensure that you have a national interest aside from your own personal interest.
There are perceptions that the executive in Nigeria, has suffered because other arms of government have frustrated its effort. That the executive arm of government working on projects, trying to get things done, and it is like the flexing of muscles. Who is superior? What is your thought process on this?
For any good governance, like we run a democratic government, it's important that we have those check and balances from all of the arms of government.
But not so that frustrates.
Frustrates, no. So, but if you look largely, where would the frustration comes from? So take the House of Assembly, in the case of a state, House of Assembly that doesn't support the governor in some of those agendas. There are many ways to it. There are other areas where he can actually present his case and they can actually negotiate their way out. I want to believe that if you have the right set of people in the legislature, you are going to find legislators that are supporting good policies.
So what happens if you do not have the right set of people in the legislature?
That becomes a problem. So if you really want to run a government that works, you need to think through about all of the whole process. Because again, you have the third part, which is the judiciary, who can also step into any of those conflict that comes in between the two. Because if you are not going to support the governor on certain things he needs to do, you need to go back to the judiciary to be able to step in, maybe settle out of court or be able to do that. So you need those arms. They're also very important in making sure the executive perform that which he has got to do.
Very, very insightful, but equally challenging.
Yes, I agree with you.
Because the executive arm of government has significant amount of work to do.
Yes.
I want to take your parting shot concerning Nigeria. If you were able to speak to the executive arm of government, what would you advise?
All right. My advice would be to the executive is that the development of this nation largely depends on them. People say that talk is cheap, but action is very important. The action in terms of getting us from where we are to where we are going rests on the shoulders of the executive. You must not fail in your responsibility to ensure that you are upholding the laws, you are enforcing the law, and you are ensuring that every arms of government is doing what has been designed to do. If we see those implementation with people with integrity, we are going to see a lot of change in this country.
And Nigeria will be a better nation.
Absolutely.
Wherever you are, this is the agenda. And we have been talking about institutions, specifically the executive arm of government. We have been talking about the challenges, the possibilities, the opportunities, and the advancement way forward for a nation like ours. Whatever you do, as much as you would want to criticize government, play your part, give feedback, engage, ask questions, albeit in a way and manner in which the government will acknowledge your contributions. Too often we have persons who would rather like to play to the gallery or get involved in a way that satisfies them. It has been said that for some people, when they were talking loudest, it was because their mouth was empty. But when they began to get their mouth filled, they could speak no longer for the people and for the constituency that they represent. It is my firm belief that that will no longer be the story. Institutions are important, much more than individuals in the institution. Because when a man or a woman is bigger than an institution, crisis is inevitable. This is the agenda. Wherever you are, please be advised. Join us and connect with us on our various social media platforms. We look forward to engaging you. We look forward to your feedback. And note this, we have a work to do concerning the nation of our dreams. We cannot outsource it. We cannot stay complaining. We must be hopeful and give valuable feedback. Till I come your way next time, Abiodun Famujura is my name. See you soon.